It's the most wonderful time of the year. Spotify Wrapped has officially rolled around, and in today's video, we're going to be sharing our lists with you guys and also reacting to some of your guys' lists and maybe roasting some. But before we actually dive in, we just wanted to say thank you from the entire team for all the love that you guys have shown us all year round, especially on the audio podcast. And we were actually able to peak at number 2 on the podcast charts, and we spent 40 weeks on those charts as well. So if you guys have not tapped in yet, check out the pinned comment or the description for music recommendations and a bunch of audio exclusive episodes that we do every Tuesday. But as I said, guys, much love and thank you.
It's crazy, man. Crazy. When I saw those stats come out this morning, I'm like, really, 40 weeks? That's crazy to me because when we launched the project at the beginning of the year, we really wanted to create a different and unique experience for you guys. So much love from the entire NFR team. Thank you guys for a wonderful year, and let's get into this.
We have the best community in the world, so much love to all of you guys. But let me get started with my Spotify Wrapped because you have Apple Replay.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first thing that I want to go through is my top 5 artists. Number 5, Lil Uzi Vert.
Interesting.
Number 4, Nazir Jones. Number 3, Kanye West. Number 2, Travis Scott. And number 1 is Drake. And I know what people are going to say. I've been called the Drake Laser 6000 before. Like, I've heard it all before, and I'm proud, bro. I'll wear that. I mean, I'm Canadian at the end of the day, and I was really getting hyped for all the dogs in the summertime, and that's where the majority of my listening took place, was revisiting all the classics. Nothing Was the Same, Take Care.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that made up the bulk of that, to be honest with you. So not too much for all the dogs in rotation, but definitely the classic Drizzy stuff. But how do you feel about my list overall in that top 5?
I think it's great, but I know your music taste, and I was able to kind of predict it before even coming into this episode. But the only one that I was kind of like, well, really, was Lil Uzi. Lil Uzi at number, what, 4?
Yeah, at number 5.
Number 5. Right.
That's just as much of a shocker to you as it is to me. Like, bro, I'm sorry, this doesn't make sense. Like, I've always said this. Like, sometimes I don't know if there's tampering or what there is, but I have not listened to that much Uzi this year.
Numbers don't lie, baby.
And he dropped
numbers.
Bro, I've been saying it all year that he dropped the Stink tape, and I haven't been bumping the album. Like,
no, come on. Listen, I understand that you weren't a big fan of the project, but regardless, though, maybe Love Is Rage 2 was in big rotation for you. I know you're a huge fan of that album, though.
Yeah, listen, I was bumping some Uzi again in anticipation for the album, but
that's what I'm trying to say, though, is that, like, I feel like when you really concentrate on one artist for a certain period of time, you're going to get into it. But not only that, but you're a huge Uzi fan. So
I am, but
so I could kind of understand why it makes your top 5.
I just feel like there's other artists in there, like a Jid, for example, or Metro Boomin, that I expected to have ranked a bit higher, but it is what it is. I'll take it. Pretty basic list, but at the end of the day, these are my most listened to artists. Minutes listened, I had 39,980 minutes. Top songs, I'll give you my top 5. Number 5, Hyena. Number 4, Meltdown with Drake. Number 3, I Know. Number 2, Modern Jam. And number 1, Thank God. So quite literally, I enjoyed Utopia, if it's not a
People have been
surprise.
loving this. We posted it up on the Twitter, and everyone was kind of like, same. You know, this was the year for Travis Scott. It was the year for Utopia, and it's awesome to see that you have so many songs in rotation from him on that.
But
end,
what's shocking to me is that I Know is not my number 1. Like, I'm telling you, bro, I've been junking the fuck out of that song, and I was like ready to place all my money on the line that I Know is gonna be my number 1 spot for my songs, and ended up being placed at number 3, so
that's
a bit surprising there. But yeah, that's pretty much the Wrapped for me. Top genre was rap, but clearly. But let me take you through my my number 6 to 10 for most listened to songs.
What do you got there?
Just to have a little more diversity thrown in there. So let's see what we have. So after the top 5 Utopia, I had Too Many Nights by Metro with Don Toliver.
Crazy song.
After that, I had Lean Beef Patty at number 7.
Yes, sir. There we go.
Gotta have some Scaring the Hose love in there. Then number 8 was Oh You Went, Young Thug and Drake. Number 9 was Sirens, another Utopia. Then I had Superhero, Future and Metro.
Wow, okay.
So a lot of mainstream hip-hop, to be honest with you. The further down you go, though, you'll find Face the World by Nipsey Hussle. You'll find Forever by K Tremine, and some other cool picks. But overall thoughts on my rap before you give me yours.
It was so predictable, though.
Predictable,
I was, because I've been podcasting with you this entire year, so I kind of know where your taste is at. And for the most part, I feel like when you get your Spotify Wrapped, it's a direct reflection of where the year was at and what you were listening to, and it was a dry year. You know, I think that's no surprise to anyone. But to be able to see Heroes and Villains, and I know you're a huge Drake fan. You and I have been, bumping him the entire summer, so I think that's valid. You want me to go through mine?
Yes, sir.
All right, so guys, this is my Apple Music replay, and this is a bit less shocking for me because you have access to this the entire year. You could check your statistics out, who you've been bumping the most, what have you been bumping, and everything in between. So
no element of surprise, in other words.
Well, okay, because I only checked it a couple of weeks ago because I knew we were kind of anticipating this episode for this week. So I said, okay, let me just see where I'm at with things. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. You know, I have a lot of diversity this year. I will say that. It was the year where I kind of went into different genres and kind of had that going, you know? So as a whole, I had 63,000 minutes played, 63,946 minutes played, to be exact with you guys. As far as my top artists, I could go through 15 of them because, you know, Apple gives you that. So
start off with the top 5, though. I want to hear those.
Yeah, but I'm not going to then give you the top 15 after. You get what I'm
trying
to say?
Whatever you
Let me
want.
go through my stuff, all right? So 15, Tyler, the Creator. 14, John Coltrane. 13, Future. 12, Metro Boomin. 11, Miles Davis. 10, Kendrick Lamar. 9, J. Cole. 8 is Sade. 7 is Joey Badass. 6 is Travis Scott.
Okay, hold on. Let me try to predict your top 5 real quick.
What do you got in there?
Predictions. I have no idea what your list looks like. I'm going to say that Drake is number 1.
Drake is number 1.
Wow,
Absolutely.
okay.
So let me go through this. Okay, number 5 is Mac Miller. Number 4 is Lure. He's a really big DJ from Australia that I'm a big fan of. So I've been bumping his music the entire year. 3 is Isaiah Rashad. 2 is K Tronada, and number 1 is Drake, and that is what my list looks like. And honestly, every single year that I do this episode, K-Tra and Drake are always at the top of my list.
I feel like this is the second year in a row where Drake tops your list, if I'm not mistaken.
Last year, was it? I think so. Either way, I think it's also the second year in a row where I have Mac Miller and I have Isaiah Rashad in my top
end. And K Tronada was pretty high up, I think, for you last year, too.
My 2 most played albums of 2022 were 99.9% and Bubba. And I'm a huge advocate for K Tronada, some of my favorite music in the entire industry. So I've been bumping that the entire
year. New album on the way, too, which is going to be very exciting.
I can't excite.
But tell me about Lore. That one's kind of the biggest curveball within your list.
Okay, so I've been doing I've been building up a lot of EDM playlists, and maybe at some point I'm actually going to release them because I've been doing a deep dive into the genre. I've always been a big fan of EDM and lounge music. It's always been a big staple of mine. I go to live sets all the time. Fagella, who runs our Twitter, one of our best friends since kindergarten, and takes care of all of our social media. I share and relate a lot to him when it comes to the music as well. I use EDM while I'm working. I use it for my late night drives. I just feel like it's a perfect. It's also like, you ever walk into a cologne store and they give you coffee beans to like reset your nose and your palate? I feel like EDM music is that for me with hip hop music.
It's the ear cleanser.
It's the ear cleanser. So I could just throw on some instrumentals and like, it gives me a clearer vision of like when I have to go into an album, let's say, or start analyzing it. So just some recommendations for you guys when it comes to Lure. Man, I gotta pull this up for you guys. Actually, I mentioned the project in our Fantano episode. When we did that back in, I think we released it in August. I'm not sure, but anyways,
that's one thing that I feel like Spotify needs to have is like the albums, because I've done so many like full album listens this year. That's how I typically like to listen to music, and they don't actually offer you what your most listened to albums are.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be going through my top songs and my top albums right after this. I just want to give you guys 2 recommendations before I keep going with this. West Side Movements, it's an EP released in 2017, and Smooth Talk EP released in 2018. Super short listens, but those were my most played projects from him this year.
Top songs.
All right, so this is where it's gonna get interesting. I have no hip hop in my top 5.
Nothing. No hip hop.
No hip hop in my top 5.
Wow, that's crazy, bro.
You want to hear what I have?
Guys,
right.
You heard it here first. Anta's not a hip hop fan, apparently.
No hip hop. But then after that, you go through like my top 15, and the rest is over there.
I'm sure.
So number 5, Kiss of Life by Sade. Number 4, What You Won't Do for Love by Bobby Caldwell.
Oh, that's a big W.
Number 3, Deepen It by Berlioz and Ted Jasper. Number 2, Smooth Talk by Lure. And then number 1, Vivid Dreams by K Tronada, once again for a second year in a row.
That's your most played song 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, this year for me gave me the opportunity to be able to dive into different genres and to start exploring different palettes. That's what I want to say about it. And I think my replay kind of, reflects that.
Yeah.
There's only so many times I could run through Take Care, and I'm gonna be like, well, fuck yeah, let me go back in. I really needed this year to be able to settle down, enjoy some new sounds, and kind of explore some different things for myself.
And I feel like, as a hip hop fan, this was the perfect year to do that, to venture out into different genres, different sounds. That's something that I've done too, where the mainstream was so quiet that it almost forced you to go deeper into the underground and deeper into other genres. And that's something that I did as well, besides listening to my favorites like a Drake or a Travis.
Absolutely.
or whatever it is.
Because you see where my top artists are. It's
Yeah.
mostly hip hop, right? But when it comes down to certain songs and tracks, I was like, well, I'm fucking heavy on this. But okay, now it's time for my top albums, and this is where you're gonna start seeing some hip hop. All right. So my top albums for this year, and they gave me the statistics for how many times I've ran through them. So
Okay, take us through your top 5.
Okay, so my top 5. Number 5, Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin. I played that album 182 times this year.
W.
Number 4, Care Package by Drake. I played that 217 times this year.
Wow.
Number 3, Bubba by K Tronada. Made my top 5 again. I played that 240 times this year. Number 2, Love Deluxe by Sade. I played that 242 times this year. And number 1, any guesses?
Any guesses? Number 1? I don't know. Utopia.
Utopia is my number 1 album for the year, 254 plays. So it's interesting because I kind of treated that album as like full listens, you know, and then after that, like maybe there's certain songs I go back to, but I really like to put on that album and even do shuffle with it. Like it's interesting to. Yeah, I don't go through K-pop and stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely skips.
I'm not a Del Resto guy, but for the most part, I had a good time this year with my music listenership. Another couple of albums in my top 10. Black Swan by Smino, 167 times played this year. Sylvia Demo by Isaiah Rashad, 168 times. Then after that, 1999, 144. Lahai by Sampha actually made my top end of the year list, 136 times played.
That's sick, and it just came out too. Imagine if it would have came out in January. Me too,
It
man.
would have probably been like my most played album.
I've been
of the year.
bumping that heavy. Album of the year, I think, for both of us, all genres included. But
So one more thing before we get on to maybe reacting to some other lists. My top genres for the year: hip hop number 1, house is number 2, rap. I don't know what the difference between rap and hip hop is. Number 3, alternative rap. Number 4, and hardcore rap at number 5.
Awesome. Okay,
And
let's
that's what I
react to some of your guys' raps for this year. We have some interesting ones that you guys sent in. Let's start off with The Navaj, and the top artists are number 1, Nav, number 2, Travis, number 3, Kanye, number 4, Drake, number 5, Future, and 88,000 minutes listened. Top songs are Violent Crimes, Vicodin, Myself, Chamber of Reflection, and You Are My High. So 88,000 minutes listened, and Nav, the GOAT himself, ends up being number 1. This might be the best list that we see today.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think at a certain point I had Nav self-titled in like my top end of the year list for like one of my most listened to albums. Because I remember around like 2020, 2021, I was going back through like my Nav phase. And I know that sounds fucking crazy to some people, but when I was going back through self-titled, man, I was just junking it. That is an infectious album.
If this was 2017, it would probably be in my top 5. Like, songs like Myself would be ranking so high. I was just junking that so heavy in high school.
All right, let me go on to the next one.
Yeah, go on to the next.
All right, so this comes to us from Coney. Thank you so much for this, bro. 235,000 minutes played. That is wild.
It's a bit extreme.
That is crazy. But listen, I don't judge. I find that incredible. Your top genre was melodic rap, and I think your list reflects that. So, your top artists were Juice WRLD, The Weeknd, Lil Uzi, NBA YoungBoy, and Polo G. Having The Weeknd in that mix is quite interesting. So as far as your top songs go, number 1, The Morning. I Walk This Earth. Ms. Jackson by Outkast, 4, Barely Holding, and then after that, I Don't Wanna, because I don't, I can't see like the extensions of the song, so I don't want to fuck up any titles.
So yeah, definitely a list that takes a hold of like, I guess, 2017, 2018 hip hop and artists that were really flourishing around that time. Interesting list, but I think this might be the craziest one.
Yeah,
that I've laid eyes on. 316,000 minutes listened. Listen, I don't know if I'm impressed or scared for your own sanity. Top 5 artists. Number 5, La Tyler. Number 4, Gucci Mane.
That is crazy.
Number 3, Big Scar. Number 2, Lil Durk.
Crazy.
Number 1 is Pooh Shiesty, bro.
You know what type of bag this guy's in.
Bro, 316,000 minutes listened? That's more than half of the time that we have in a given year.
Yes. That's incredible.
Did you sleep this year?
Well, yeah. How do you even get to those types of numbers?
I think Mr. NepTZ might need some melatonin or something, bro, because this is extreme.
That is crazy.
But
you know what? I have to salute
he
that.
He deserves a medal. Like, I think this is the highest count I've ever seen.
I know. What was last year's count that we
was
saw?
Like 250, I think, was the highest.
We were like, bro, what the fuck?
This is a fucking record, bro.
I know. And listen, every single year, you know what's crazy? I feel like the raps get higher and higher for like minutes listened.
But let's be real, bro. Like, at this point, you're taking your AirPods to family dinners. Like, you're going to weddings and you're not even listening to the DJ. You're popping in your headphones.
And you're listening to Pooh Shiesty's catalog. You're in your wedding and you're like, you're in that zone. You know,
You're in go mode, bro.
You're in absolute go
So
mode. But that's
even
fine.
the artists that are listed, like I would have a hard time having that as my rotation.
That gets dark,
Bro. That's
depends.
bleak.
That is definitely you're in a certain type of headspace.
Back in Blood was the top song.
Oh my goodness. How many plays on that? Does it tell you or no?
No, it just says the top songs. But yeah, we had to talk about this one because it is by far the most impressive.
Absolutely.
If you will, if you want to call it impressive.
That gets
but
scary, bro. How do you listen to that much like Pooh Shiesty and like Gucci Mane? Like,
let's be real. Like he's going to bed and just like letting Spotify run. Like at a certain point, there's no other explanation.
Bro, you must get like nightmares, man. There's only so many times like you could hear someone talking about like spinning the block. You know, like you might. Like I appreciate
the shootouts. Like at a certain point,
that's fucking scary, man.
It's a bit much.
But listen, I don't judge. That's your music
to
taste.
Each their own.
Yeah, let's go on to the next one. Okay?
Absolutely.
So we got Alex. I want to go on to Alex's one.
This is a great one.
This is maybe one of my favorites that I've seen. So
I think it is my favorite.
Yeah, so 230,000 minutes played this year. That is absolutely impressive. Your top artist, Madlib at number 1, Jay Dilla at number 2, Knowledge at number 3, A Tribe Called Quest at number 4, and number 5 was MF Doom. This is an incredible list.
This is a hip-hop connoisseur. This is someone that listens to quality, and I love the fact that it's mostly producers that are thrown in here. Like, his ear is definitely geared towards high-quality production. You literally have some of the best producers of all time listed here. Knowledge has an amazing catalog as well, so I love to see that. Tribe, one of my favorite groups, and they actually ranked somewhat pretty high for my most played songs when you look at songs like Award Tour, so I relate to that. Yeah, just an incredible list. But next up, we have one here from La Cracky. And he said, I wonder how you guys will feel about this. So, number 1 is Yeet. Number 2 is Ken Carson. Number 3 is Summers. Number 4 is Homicide Gang. And number 5 is The Shoy Lonely. And he has 15,000 minutes listened to only Yeet.
I love that. Good for you.
You love
man.
it?
Good for you, man. Listen, it wouldn't be my Spotify rap, but it just shows you where, like, let's say some listeners are at, you know? And if this was maybe a couple of years ago, it'd be a completely different sentiment. But I do feel like there's a new movement and, like, kind of like a new sound that's coming out. And, you know, kids are absolutely junking it at this point.
That's why. This, like, perfectly represents the new generation of hip-hop and, like, those artists that sort of embody the rage sound and a lot of the music that I'm not a huge fan of, to be totally honest.
Yeah, this would never be my rap,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's interesting to see where your top artists are at, because you could start to see like where the scene is and what type of scene is developing with the top emerging artists, which is exciting, you know, regardless if I enjoy it or not to the fullest. You know, it's just cool to be able to see people win and to be able to see a new type of sound come through. So
absolutely.
As far as his top songs, he has Myself at number 1, yeah, Back Home, Layup, I Need You, and then Lying for Fun. I mean, you could see where his music is at. You know, you have Yeet at the number 1 with 15,000 minutes played.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
You think this also, like, it makes a clear indication of like the age of the user too?
No, because I know some people. Example, okay, so let's talk about like Fagella, for example. You know, I was just talking about him and you know, at the beginning of this episode. Bro, the guy's been fucking bumping all of this throughout the entire year, and he's the same age as us. He grew up in the same setting. You know,
but
he's a part of the brand.
Cardi, Travis, Drake, like. It's not only like Opium and like Yeet and that sound, you know what I mean? It's a bit more diverse than that.
But I feel like it's maybe taking over for his rotation a bit.
Maybe.
Like he is falling in, he's
engulfed.
He's engulfed in that sort of in that sort of genre.
We're gonna react to one more list for today, guys. This one comes to us from Samson. Thank you for sending it in. And your top 5 artists. Amazing list, by the way. Number 5 is Mac Miller. Number 4 is Kendrick Lamar. Number 3 is James Blake. Number 2 is Isaiah Rashad.
Yes,
and number 1 is Red Veil with 112,000 minutes listened. That's a very healthy number.
That's a healthy number.
And songs are Stargirl Interlude, Good Morning, New Info, Stuck, and Morphine by Red Veil. And to be honest with you, Red Veil has been heavy in rotation. Still going back to Learn to Swim. Still going back to Niagara. And I think that he's definitely one of the artists to keep maintaining an eye on and to have on your radar if you're a hip-hop fan. And same for Isaiah Rashad. He's someone whose music is aging gracefully.
The House is Burning was in my top 10 albums of the year, actually.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting for me. But yeah, 112 minutes played. That's healthy. Let me ask you another question. Seeing through everyone's minutes, like, how do you even consume that amount of music, let's say? Because I know for you and I, like, we try to keep it a bit lower because then, like, you're just fucking, it's like you're junking it. Like, you don't even know what you're listening to.
For sure. I mean, I think it varies for everybody, right? It depends what your routine's like, how you like to play your music in a given day. Like for myself, I don't typically always play like background music if I'm cooking or if I'm doing shit around the house. I like to have just sort of some calm at times. So I'm not really playing music in those times. The car rides are essential, but even at that, sometimes I'll maybe rather, plug in some CDs and go through my swimming album or my Duran Jones album. Like I'll have some of those moments too, or even spinning the vinyls I have at home, let's say.
Yeah, because you have a great record system at home too.
Yeah,
Alex's
so
record system is cool.
That's it. So that sort of plays into a role as well. But yeah, most of my music just comes from car rides, preparing for content, and just enjoyment throughout the day. But what about you?
Yeah, I think mine is moderate. I mean, 63,000 minutes. It's still pretty high, but I mean, I'm not getting up to you guys with, the 100, 200, 300,000s. I find that's a lot of fucking music. But for myself, like, I love background music.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, But like you said, sometimes you got to calm down with it. So, like, I see my family a lot. Like, I'm in different situations. And for myself, too, like, I feel like when I listen to too much music, it just jades the way that I look at it. It's like when you do too much of something, it kind of like it desensitizes you to it. So I never really wanted to have that happen.
Also, when I like to listen to music, I like to be attentive, and I like to sort of like. So I'm sort of the opposite of you in that sense, where it's like I like to sort of like really immerse myself into whatever I'm hearing. So maybe that's why I don't have too much background plays. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's going to sum up the Spotify Wrapped episode. As we mentioned earlier, guys, thank you so much for rocking with us for the entire year. And we have so many cool videos and events planned for the rest of the year, including our top 10 list for songs, albums, our award show, which will be going down in December, late December. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.